How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you. As always, text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get all the links you need to stay in touch with the show, the 24/7 stream, the show notes, all that. If you're a paid subscriber, the very first link, when you text Eric to 33777, you get at the top of the show every weekday all the stuff I'm going to talk about, all the links, including the stuff I'm talking about right now. Let's talk about Tylenol. No, I'm not a doctor. Many of the people who spoke yesterday are not doctors, but I know a lot of doctors and researchers, and I would like to, like the president, find the cause of autism and the cure. And I want to be real clear here out of the gate. One of the reasons for an increase in autism rates in the country, it's now like 1 in 34 kids or something, is we now have this broad spectrum, and a lot of behavioral issues are now diagnosed as autism. And I've got a lot of friends who are considered autistic. They're highly functioning. Some of them are in film and broadcast. Some of them are teachers, and they would have never been diagnosed as autistic at one point, except now we've expanded the definition. And so a lot of people in the past who wouldn't have been considered autistic would now today be classified as autistic. A lot of composers, a lot of very famous geniuses, we would say, they're on the spectrum. It's like ADHD. Every kid has ADHD now. You expand the definition of ADHD enough, every kid has it. So I'm not talking about general autism spectrum, Asperger's, things like that. I'm specifically talking about the neurodevelopmental children who have autism, who struggle to speak, struggle to make eye contact, have developmental issues because of it. You may have a friend who has a kid with severe autism. I have several friends whose kids have severe autism. And it can be very sad to see. Families where a child has very pronounced autism very often get divorced. They have a very high divorce rate. It's very trying. It can be very taxing. I know a guy who has a child with such severe autism, they have had to place their child in a home because they have 4 other children and were struggling to take care of the whole family. And it was a gut-wrenching decision for them. A lot of children back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s who would today be diagnosed with autism were institutionalized. Back then, they weren't diagnosed with autism. Part of the reason we have this increase in autistic diagnoses is because of the expansion of the definition. But there's something else going on as well. And a lot of people want to know why. Yesterday, the president and Robert F. Kennedy announced that one of the potential issues is Tylenol, the over-the-counter medication.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
Yes.
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly.
Okay. I listen. I'm going to lay my cards on the table. Many of you know, but I'm just going to be very frank. And I had a friend of mine who's a theologian put this in great words for me. A lot of Make America Healthy Again, MAHA, is faith healing for hippies. It is a works-based religion. If you do these things and avoid these other things, you will be spared the consequence of a fallen world. Instead of if you pray hard enough, you can be healed. It's if you eat these things and don't eat these things, ingest these substances and not these substances, you can get your mitochondria working and cure yourself of cancer. It's a works-based religion. It is faith healing for hippies. However, there are a number of studies going back a number of years that have suggested there may be a link to autism and Tylenol. There was a longitudinal study of parents and children, the Avon longitudinal study in 2017. There was the Boston birth cohort study. There's the 2025 Harvard Mount Sinai review. They looked at 46 previous studies and found 27 showed an association between prenatal acetaminophen and autism and ADHD. There's a 2021 international consensus statement of 91 scientists and clinicians that were cautious about it. Each of them, however, if you read them, and by the way, I spent time doing my homework, talked to doctors, read the studies, got the links, did the deep dive. Here's what you find in each of these, because these are the ones that get thrown at you if you dispute that Tylenol is a problem. What you find is that in almost all of these cases, a lot of them are studies looking at other studies. They're not new studies. They're just looking back at prior research. And the prior research involves a couple hundred kids here, maybe 1,000 kids there. And there's a statistical correlation, it seems, between Tylenol and autism. However, in every single one of those studies, the studies note that it could be statistical noise and more research is needed. And that's very important for you to know, that all the studies that show there's a possible link, and they use the word possible, say because they're dealing with such a small number of people, there needs to be more. We now have more. We have the largest study ever conducted, was conducted in 2024, and instead of studying 989 people, as one of the studies did, or 1,038 as another study did, it studied 2.5 million children. And you know what it found? That I'm going to read you from the study. It's easy to understand. The magnitude of the association between acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental disorders was generally comparable to or lower than estimates for aspirin, non-aspirin NSAIDs, opioids, and anti-migraine medications. So yes, there's a correlation, but it's actually less than is the correlation between autism and aspirin, autism and ibuprofen, autism and opioids, autism and anti-migraine medicines. Tylenol is actually less. But there's one more step that this 2.5 million research pool did. They looked at moms who had multiple kids. Because, if you look at a mom and she has a child, and the child gets autism, and then you look at another mom, the child gets autism, and he says, did you use Tylenol? Yes. Well, maybe there's a link to the Tylenol. But what about a mother who has multiple children with the same husband? So the genetics are all comparable between the kids. You got that? This one makes a lot of sense here. Let's look at mothers who had multiple kids with the same husband, so the genes are the same for each of the kids. And let's look at Tylenol usage of that mother through her pregnancies and what happens. And it turns out when you look at moms who have multiple kids and assess autism, there's no pattern. There actually is no pattern. This again from the study of 2.5 million children. The association between non-NSAIDs, opioids, acetaminophen, and anti-migraine medications and neurodevelopmental disorders diminished to null in sibling analysis. So if you just look at moms who have kids with autism, there appears to be a faint connection between acetaminophen and autism. But when you look at moms who have multiple kids and assess autism between those kids, that faint tie of autism goes away. If you want to not take Tylenol during pregnancy, I don't blame you. But Tylenol is very often the pain reliever of choice for doctors for women who are pregnant. And my fear is that some women are going to hear this news and get very high fevers and say, well, I can't take autism I can't take Tylenol because my kid will get autism. And then they damage the child because they have a high fever. There are real risks with what happened yesterday because it's not only that the science isn't settled and it was portrayed as settled, it's that the science is actually very much disputed. There are some women who are told during pregnancy not to take Tylenol. There are a lot of women during pregnancy who are told it's the only one to take. My wife is in the latter camp. Her second pregnancy, my wife has factor V Leiden, a blood clotting disorder. She couldn't take aspirin or ibuprofen because it would further thin her blood while she was pregnant. And so she was told she could only take Tylenol. Our child is just fine. Other than he's a jerk when it comes to playing Halo and he wants to kick my butt all the time. Nonetheless, the kid's fine. No autism. We sometimes wonder, but there's no autism. They also said that the Amish community yesterday, they said the Amish community doesn't get autism. That's actually not true. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has for a number of years now peddled this lie. It's based on an investigative researcher in the Amish community who wasn't actually a doctor. In fact, numerous doctors from the Amish community have said, yes, actually, they do get autism, but actually there is lower autism rate in the Amish community. And the Amish doctors point out that there's a lower rate of autism within the Amish community. And their suspicion is it is tied to higher negative genetic mutations within the Amish community. The Amish disproportionately have other genetic problems that larger populations don't. A couple of malformities that are specifically called Amish in the name of the syndrome because people outside the Amish community don't get it. But they do get autism. It is better, I think, all around that you not take drugs when you're pregnant. Lots of jokes around today from Gen Xers that their parents smoke and drink and they turned out just fine, didn't get autism. My concern is the women who are thinking of getting pregnant who are not like, well, I don't think I can get pregnant. I get migraines. If I get a migraine, I'm not going to be able to take anything. My kid's going to get autism. We're trying to grow births in this country, and I don't think the solution is to tell moms, yeah, you can't take any pain reliever. I don't think that's a good thing. Listen, if you want to believe that Tylenol causes autism, that's fine. I don't really care. Just don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant. But there are a lot of doctors who tell their patients who are pregnant it's the only pain reliever you can take. And I don't think moms who give birth to a child who ultimately develops autism should spend the rest of their life in guilt that maybe it was their consumption of Tylenol that caused the autism, because actually the greatest body of research out there suggest there actually is no tie between Tylenol and autism. In fact, again, the magnitude of the association between acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental disorders was generally comparable to or lower than estimates for aspirin, non-aspirin NSAIDs, opioids, and anti-migraine medications. As with acetaminophen, the association between non-aspirin NSAIDs, opioids, and anti-migraine medications and neurodevelopmental disorders diminished to zero in the sibling analysis. That's the latest research of the largest pool of people on the planet, concluding that actually there really is no tie. Believe what you want to believe. I just think we risk guilting a lot of women, blaming themselves for taking Tylenol, and also discourage other women from wanting to get pregnant, thinking, what happens if I get sick? There's nothing I can do. They shouldn't have handled yesterday the way they handled it. Well, for those of you out in Oklahoma, Freedom 96.9 in Oklahoma City and KRMG in Tulsa, there's some breaking news for all of you. Mike Gundy been fired. He's been the Oklahoma State coach for more than 20 years, lost to Tulsa. The first time since 1998 that Tulsa beat Oklahoma State, and the school's first at OSU since 1951. Oklahoma State was a 13.5 favorite. And, well, Tulsa trounced him. Mike Gundy is now no more at Oklahoma State. Kind of a big deal in college sports. After 20 years there, he was a Cowboys quarterback, and then became the coach at Oklahoma State. Been there, and OSU now looking for a new football coach for its football team. It plays Baylor this coming Saturday. Big deal for those of you out in Oklahoma, though. My goodness. You know what? Like, I'm not a super, diehard, fan of some of those leagues. And, I know who Mike Gundy is. So, yeah, big deal. Those of you out in Oklahoma. Okay, now we got to move on. When we come back, we got to talk about Kamala Harris and her insane new book. But first, I've got to tell you about Swiss America. They've been warning people about a secret war on cash for quite some time. They would like to give you a copy of their free report on the secret war on cash. Gold price, I don't know if y'all have seen this, it continues to soar. And now silver prices are going up as well. And it's kind of the third world is ditching the dollar for gold right now. Swiss America is just all sorts of warnings about the secret war on cash. Get your copy of their free report by calling or texting my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Just text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Fill out the form, get the report. It's completely free. It involves cryptocurrency and cash, and the government trying to steer you away from either towards plastic so that they can control your spending. You got to get the Secret War on Cash report completely free from Swiss America. Call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646, or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. Message and data rates may apply. There is some breaking news happening right now. I need you to know. Google has just admitted to the United States House of Representatives, to Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, that under pressure from the Biden administration, Google did cancel accounts on YouTube and close accounts on YouTube that they admit was censorship pressure from the Biden administration that was unacceptable and wrong. YouTube is now acknowledging this and saying they will allow back those YouTubers who were demonetized or banned from YouTube over supposed COVID disinformation. Big breaking news. At a time the left is screaming about Jimmy Kimmel, it turns out Google is admitting that the Biden-Harris administration pressured Google to censor people for what they considered COVID disinformation, and Google complied. I will try to get more details here in the next little while and bring you more. But speaking of Kamala Harris, we need to talk a little more about her. She was on Rachel Maddow's show. Was it Rachel Maddow or her twin, Chris Hayes? It was Maddow. It was Maddow. She was on with Maddow. She and Chris Hayes kind of look alike. Kamala Harris was talking about Pete Buttigieg, and boy, did she dance around the topic. This is her on MSNBC.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear with you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay, it's hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said, that he couldn't be on the ticket.
No. That's not what I said, that he couldn't be on the ticket. Well, she basically said it was the American public who were bigots, not her. And that is not going over well with people. In fact, on the fly here, because I am your host and I adore you, I'm going to see and work my magic. I told Charlie to get that clip, but I'm going to see if I can pull up the longer clip here and we can listen to this one together stop. You know what? I got this because I'm a genius. Y'all don't think I am, but on occasion, I'm capable of pulling up these videos on the fly because I think the full context here probably needs to be appreciated of what Rachel Maddow and Kamala Harris were talking about, because it goes to the issue of her deciding she couldn't pick Pete Buttigieg, and the initial reports were that it was because he was gay, and she says, it wasn't me. Listen to the full exchange here.
Let me ask you a politics question. I mentioned in the intro tonight that you say in the book really bluntly that your personal first choice for your running mate would have been Pete Buttigieg, and you praise him effusively. You say he would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight man. And you say effectively that demographically it was too much to ask of the American people to ask them to elect you with him as your running mate. I wonder if his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear with you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay, it's hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said, that he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but we had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious.
Basically, she's saying Americans were too bigoted. You, by the way, you do know this about Kamala Harris. Whenever her face, when she freezes her facial expression, that's when she's not telling the truth. I mean, you watch Kamala Harris give a speech, and there will be times she says things and she freezes her eyebrows and her eyes and her facial expression when she says it because she doesn't want to give away her true expression. That is when she's lying. And when she says she thinks Pete Buttigieg is great, she does that. And when she says she thinks the American people would be ready for that if she had time, she freezes again. She's lying to both counts because it's well known in D.C. she and Buttigieg hated each other, and she blamed Buttigieg's team very much behind the scenes for all the nasty press that was leaked out about Kamala Harris. She did not like Pete Buttigieg. She's just throwing it in there right now and axe grinding. The American people are bigots. That's what she believes, that the American people are bigots. But wait, that's not all she said. She also had this to say about the President of the United States.
And right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up. And perhaps it is because his threats and the way he has used the weight of the federal government to take out vengeance on his critics is something that they fear, and I get that. I understand why they do. We've seen the demonstration of it.
So Donald Trump's not an authoritarian tyrant. He's not a totalitarian. He's a communist dictator. Really. That's the best she can do. Let's go over to you, Harry Inton at CNN, and ask what the polling says.
I would just say that if you want a messenger to go against Donald Trump, you can do far better as Democrats than Kamala Harris. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at her net favorable ratings nationwide. You know, back in October of 2024, she was at -5 points. Not exactly great, but pretty close to the zero mark, right? Pretty close to even. But now, down under she goes. She's at -13 points. That's an 8-point drop since the general election among the overall electorate. She is not well liked at this particular point. The American people, they don't want this. They don't want her. And get this, she's 37 points underwater with independents. If you can't win independents, you can't win the election. And the bottom line is, with those in the center of the electorate, those who are the most up for grabs, she is way, way, way underwater. She is definitely swimming with the fishes.
Swimming with the fishes. 30 points underwater with independents. Think about that. 30 points underwater with independents. And she's trying to recast herself as some sort of victim. And on The View, she's trying to pull this idea out. She was there on her book tour campaign today, because keep in mind, it is a book tour that Kamala Harris is on. She's trying to get people to buy her book, and things are apparently not going well. And she's trying to claim that she somehow ran a very close election against Donald Trump, which actually isn't true. She's trying to make this data analysis game for her electoral loss, and that data analysis game doesn't hold up no matter what she says. It's simply not true. She lost, and she lost the popular vote to a Republican after Democrats had convinced themselves that they would never lose the popular vote again. This is her this morning on The View.
And by the way, another piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race, it is the closest presidential race in the 21st century in terms of the outcome.
Wow. Yeah. You know, say that again, because he likes to say over and over again he's got a mandate.
And that's part of why I wrote this book, because history will talk about this race.
Yeah.
It is part of American history. And it was important to me that when history is written, that my voice be present about what that experience is.
People don't like her. She's over 30 points underwater with independent. She's down 13 points overall with the electorate. She was only down 5 points after the election. She wants to claim this was the closest race in the 21st century. This is the 7th presidential election in the 21st century. There aren't a whole lot of them. And actually, the Bush-Gore race came down to 535 votes in Florida in 2000, and Bush versus Kerry in 2004, I think, was slightly closer. No, it wasn't. No, Bush got over 51%. Donald Trump won the popular vote. This is something Democrats had convinced themselves would not ever again happen. And yet Donald Trump won the popular vote. And he won the popular vote because Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate and Tim Walz was a terrible running mate. And if she had gotten Pete Buttigieg, and this is the key here, what she can't admit is that had she gotten Pete Buttigieg on the ticket, it would not have even been as close as it was with Tim Walz because, it's not white conservative Americans who would reject Pete Buttigieg. They were going to reject him because of the D next to his name. It was black voters who might have voted for Kamala Harris. They were going to reject him. Pete Buttigieg is specifically a thing that only white progressive people like. Black progressives don't like him. Black voters don't like him. He's like, if there's one politician in America who could have negative public opinion ratings, it would be Pete Buttigieg in the black community. That's just reality. She can say the American people are bigoted without saying it. That's what she meant. What I find remarkable is that Kamala Harris in this book, and I haven't read the book, I don't want to read the book, but I've read a number of reviews of the book from people who are sympathetic to Kamala Harris, and every single one of them came away with the same impression, which is stunning. To have so much unanimity among people who like Kamala Harris admitting she never owns up to her faults. The only faults Kamala Harris owns up to in this book is that she's just too perfect and too good. So everybody else failed her. Joe Biden failed her. Jill Biden failed her. Tim Walz failed her. The Democratic Party failed her. America failed Kamala Harris. And that is why Kamala Harris will never be elected president of the United States. The public doesn't want her, and the Democrats will move on from her because they don't want her either. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would absolutely be delighted to have you. Right now, though, I got to talk about Chuck Todd and Antifa because I saw this little clip. This is this conversation Chuck Todd had, I think, with Chris Cillizza the other day. Listen.
It's going to be this executive order where they're going to try to create a new classification for anybody on the left who opposes Trump as somehow a member of Antifa and a terrorist.
Yes.
Like, this is coming. And I don't think we are fully... Now, I don't think there's any the problem. Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is, and I know
what the word means, but it's not a group.
There is no group.
No.
And so, but what's dangerous is that by designating it, who's going to define who the group is? And if the Trump administration decides to say, you, George Soros, are a part of this group that I designated, and you're like, no, I'm not, and it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to then use that as some sort of potential opening. And I think that's what's so extraordinarily dangerous about these designations.
Okay, here's the problem with what Chuck is saying is that Antifa is a group, and it is the National Press Corps that has denied it's a group. It's a loose group. It's a confederation of individuals and entities around the country, but it is a group. You go to any Republican National Committee meeting you go to the one in Tampa, saw it happen there, back when they had it in St. Paul or Cleveland, you name it, wherever it is, what happens is a group of people show up and drop off bricks and pipes on street corners for the rioters to use. Who's doing it? Who's funding it? There actually is, on the West Coast, there's organized resistance movements, and they use the label Antifa. In Atlanta, Georgia, there was an organized effort of outsiders to come into the state of Georgia to protest what they called Cop City, as an Atlanta Police Training Center. And it was a lot of people from out of state coming into the state. They firebombed the area. They booby-trapped the land. They firebombed a fire department. They firebombed a youth facility. They showed up in churches harassing people. Who was doing the coordination? The media likes to pretend that Antifa is some nebulous non-entity. It's just a bunch of people have decided to affiliate under the brand Antifa. And you got all these people online say, anti-fascism is good. Being opposed to fascism is good. Being opposed to fascism. Meanwhile, they're the black shirts out there harassing people, silencing people, destroying property. There are clearly ties. Listen, a well-off kid from New England came to Georgia and started throwing Molotov cocktails at police. He lived somewhere. He got organized with a group of people and brought other people into Cop City. They firebombed a fire department. Ultimately, they agitated enough in certain ways to get the police to the property where they opened fire on the police, and one of them got killed. Police officer got shot, thankfully did not die. There was clearly organization involved. There was clearly planning involved. And what the media wants to pretend is that none of that planning happens, none of that organization happens. It's just all very organic. They like to believe that left-wing organizing is all organic because they like to believe that there are a lot of people out there with like minds who just spontaneously decide to do the same thing. It's always organic and uncoordinated on the left. It's always, in their minds, the Koch brothers on the right. Actually, on the left, there are a lot of outside groups that do encourage, perpetuate, and help organize this stuff. And it would be real nice to figure out who they are. I doubt it's the Soroses. I suspect they want to stay away from this stuff. But I'm sure there are lots of people out there who do want to be involved in some capacity organizing Antifa. We should find them. Now, I want you to go find Vision Computers because they can build you a new computer if you need one. They can upgrade your existing computer. If your budget is tight and you need something faster, you may be able to upgrade your current computer. Talk to Vision. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com and see if they can help you. And by the way, anybody nationwide can do this. Not just people here in Georgia. They're headquartered in Atlanta, but they help businesses in all 50 states. They can also, and this is the really cool part, they can be your managed IT service. They can actually save you money. A lot of managed IT services cost an arm and a leg, and then you got to file IT reports by email. With Vision, you get a special phone number, and you can call them 15 seconds or less. Somebody answers the phone, minimizes your downtime, maximizes your uptime, makes your employees more productive. You have less lost time because your computers work with Vision Computers. If you're in the gig economy, you're working at your local coffee shop, you might need their help too. $199 a year. Mention Eric, you could save some money, all of you. Go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them Eric sent you. You could save some money. Let Vision Computer build you a new computer, be your managed IT service, upgrade your computer, keep you online and up to date at all times. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com.